What I haven't done for a couple of months is made an update on the wrist fusion, and that's what I feel I need to do tonight. My surgery was 31st of March 2017, and we're now, I can't even remember the date, Tuesday 6th of February 2018, so we're getting on for 11 months. You've probably watched the videos I've already made. I did day 1, day 2, day 3, day 10, and then 7 weeks. A little video on about how I was doing my physio, and I was spending time out in my Polaris, there she is. And then I did another update back end of June 2017, a couple of days before I went back to work, and everything seemed okay. I saw the surgeon middle of August, explained to him this part of the hand was very, very tender, and he put me into a splint for another 6 weeks. But I coped with that. I went to work every day. I lived with the splint. I was managing to do everything I needed to do. And then I went to see him again, end of October, early November. And I was still suffering with it being very tender in this area. I don't know if you can see. It's very swollen in this area. It's very, very tender there. Because another procedure he did after doing the fusion, because there was so much damage in this side of the wrist, he took the end of the ulnar off, so the ulnar bone is not even connected to the wrist, and there's already a plate on the ulnar. What it turns out is it's trapping nerves. Over the summer months, it wasn't really, other than the weird sensations I was getting in my hand, pins and needles and that, and the lack of feeling in my little finger and that finger, it wasn't really giving me an awful lot of grief. But then as the winter drew on and the weather got damper, it began to really, really pain me. I could walk out the house in the morning, 9:15. I start work at 9 o'clock, so I'd leave the house, and the moment I walked outside, if it was a damp morning, I could feel it on the hand. Instantly feel the temperature on the hand. It's totally hyper temperature sensitive. And because I work in a temperature controlled environment, because of what we do and the materials we work with, they have to be machined at a certain temperature for the accuracy and the just really to keep the tolerances, because when the jobs are built and when they're used by my customer, they use them in a temperature controlled environment, so we have to make them in that environment. So we have to keep the workshop at a certain temperature. We can't let it get above 10 degrees Celsius, so everything's cold. It's great in the summer, no problems in the summer, brilliant building to work in, but come the winter, it's really hard to control the temperature, and there's days where I'm just creased up in pain. And the lad I work with, I'll say to him some days, I said, just feel my hand, and he'll feel my little finger, and it's freezing, it's stone cold. And right across the top of my hand here, freezing cold. And then you go to the thumb and the other 2 fingers and the other side of my arm, and it's a normal temperature. It's that temperature difference across the hand that's giving me a lot of grief. Like I say, it's very temperature hypersensitive. Have spoken to the surgeon and I've asked him to remove the plate out of the ulnar. and do something about the bone moving, because it's catching nerves and that's what's causing all the problems. I've got no regrets about having the wrist fused, because I've got lots and lots of strength in that hand. I can use it, have my restrictions, holding a pen and writing I can do, but I don't do a lot of writing, and I find it quite painful at the moment because of all the pain in this side of my hand. Chopsticks aren't a problem. I can eat with my chopsticks, got no grief with that. But if I'm out in the cold working, I'm outside doing something, say I'm working on the tractor, or we've got a little front hoeing work, so if I'm working on that, I get very cold. If I'm out in the Polaris and I haven't got my thermal gloves on, it gets very cold. If I'm using the cameras when I'm out and I'm doing a YouTube blog, it gets cold. If I'm out working of an evening, it gets cold. Then the problem is warming it up. It can take a good 3 or 4 hours to slowly warm it back up to a room temperature, because if I warm it up too fast, it's painful. So I have to let it gradually come back up to temperature. Once it's up to temperature, I get my head down. So it could be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning before I've actually got it to a point where I can sleep, where it's not too painful. But if I roll over and I lie on it, or somebody lies on it, or somebody catches it, knocks it, or I do something stupid like one of the kids will jump off the sofa, particularly the little one, she's only 5. If she jumps at me and she wants me to catch her, that can cause me a lot of grief. But you can't tell a 5-year-old not to do it. It's part of what 5-year-olds do. They see you, they're excited, they want to cuddle, they want to hug. They're going to do it, but I can't blame her. It's something she does. Anyway, I've got no regrets about having the wrist fusion. I've put all the videos together now. Instead of them being individuals, you've got, coming up after this, you've got day 1, 2, day 3, day 10. Then you've got a bit of the physio, like I say. Then you've got the update video before I went to work. So if you're willing to sit here and watch my wrist fusion documentary, blog, whatever you want to call it, listen to it. I've got some advice in there for people who are considering the fusion. Please message me if you've got any questions regarding having your wrist fused. Not everybody's going to have my problem. It's just I've been unfortunate and there was a lot of damage in my wrist, so it's probably to be expected. Please message me, ask me how I feel about things, and I'm really happy to answer your questions. Anyway, go and enjoy the rest of the video. It's coming up after this intro. Thank you. Well, here we go again.
With British Seniors, you're guaranteed to be accepted. And with the lifetime payback guarantee,
3 hours in surgery yesterday.
Will always be your cover amount or the total premiums you pay, whichever is more.
And I didn't enjoy it.
Cover from 2,000 to 20,000.
I wish they'd knocked me out and give me a general.
As little as £6.47 a month.
Looks like we've got to work it out.
I decided to go for a block.
For the lifetime payback guarantee. Investing in your
where they put the arm to sleep, and it's the weirdest feeling, but it's the fact you get to watch the operation. Never again.
Investments of at least £100 whenever you like. So you can feel
just been looking at it now, and as you can see,
find out more at santander.co.uk.
the wound is really bleeding now.
Yeah. to help you prosper.
So I'm actually in the middle of thinking about, do I
BT's 14-day unmissable
ring the
sale
hospital now and get them to have a look at it, or just
Limited infinity and
leave
unlimited
it?
UK weekend calls with an unmissable deal on BT.
It's dry now at least.
And save £150 over 12 months. Plus, get a £125 reward card when you
I
sign
didn't
up
sleep
online.
very well last night.
BT's 14-day unmissable sale must end on the 10th of April. Join today.
Last night was very uncomfortable.
5800 or visit bt.com/.
Don't matter how I held the arm last night, I just could not get it comfortable.
This Bosch electric rotary lawnmower is only £85.
But at the moment this arm is so unstable.
Just £106.48.
There's a lot of damage been done in there this time.
And this Marley sofa set just £299.
I've lost the end off that bone there.
Always low prices.
I've lost a load of bones in my hand. They've all had to be replaced with titanium plate.
You don't even want to know.
There's a pin.
Protection. Detergent alone doesn't
There's a pin
kill
going into this
bacteria,
middle
so
finger
Dettol laundry
that
cleanser
goes
kills
right from this side of my
99.9%
hand,
bacteria, even at 30
right up, and it
degrees.
goes right through the
Dettol,
hand
what it
into
takes to
there.
protect.
Let's see, the hand's ripped.
Missing out on amazing
I expected it to be very swollen after waking up, but the fingers are moving. But I can't move them on my own. I've got about that much movement.
Available this spring on the ITV app.
When it comes to my thumb, I've hardly got. That's about all I've got at the moment. I suppose it'll come with time. So, back to being strapped up again. Bloody motorbikes. The bit that really pissed me off yesterday, it wasn't the way it was planned, it's just the way it happened. There was a friend's funeral yesterday, and I didn't get to go, but I think Steve will understand why I never made it. Because he knows this is motorbike related and he was bonkers on bikes, so I hope you had a good send-off, Steve. Sorry I couldn't be there, but I'm afraid I had to get myself sorted out as well. So I'm still not myself. I'm still very fuzzy-headed. Really got a fuzzy head at the moment. I don't feel like even going out. I don't even feel like going out for a walk. I just feel so, just want to lie here and go to sleep. I'll let you know how I feel tomorrow. Oh, I've now lost my mouse. Oh, it's 2 days after the op. So we're now the 2nd of April 2017. Still in a lot of pain. But I did sleep quite a bit better last night. Woke up a few times through the night because my hand was cold and my blanket had fallen off. But I found a comfy position now in bed. So I've managed to catch up on quite a bit of sleep. I'm not as tired and groggy today. Nowhere near as groggy. But I've still got to be careful. So when I go to get up, I've got to support the arm because it is so painful when I make an abrupt move. Other than that, I feel a lot better in myself. So I think it's just bide me time. I'll see where we go from here. And hope everything works out. Say I'm back in hospital on the 10th of April now. So on the 10th of April, it's X-ray. Get rid of all the dressings that are on now. And I suspect then it's a lightweight cast for a couple of weeks. But I'm going to find that out. And also I want to see the x-rays. I want to actually see what's gone on in there. I know I watched it, but they wouldn't let me have my glasses, so my vision wasn't that good, so I've just only got a generalised idea of what was going on. I really want to see an x-ray, so it's probably going to shock me actually how much they've removed and what's gone on in there, so there we go. I'll talk to you again tomorrow, which will be day 3. Oh yeah, it's 3 days now since I had all the work done to my hand. Today is the day I feel actually human again. Except for the cramp I've got in my foot, but we'll start again. I'm back after my little bit of cramp in my foot. So, like I was saying, it's Monday now. Surgery was Friday, so we're 3 days after the surgery. I actually feel human today. I had a really good night's sleep last night. Now I can straighten my elbow out. I can actually sleep properly with my arm elevated. So that's really, really made a difference. Got about 4 hours sleep, because I fell asleep about 1. Woke up about 5, because the painkillers sort of wear off after about 4 hours. So at 5 o'clock, take another 2. Then my phone went at 9. And a friend had popped round to say hello, see how I was. I've got to say thank you to Terry, because he took me to the hospital on Friday. And he also collected me. He's been up this morning to see how I was. So thanks Terry for everything you did Friday. Thanks for popping up this morning. Thanks for all your support leading up to the operation as well. It's really been good to have somebody to talk to. You probably know more than anybody else about what was happening before the op and what could have happened and what has happened. And well, you know what I'm going on about, Terry, but thanks anyhow. You've been absolute brilliant help. Couldn't ask for a better friend. Thank you. So, get back to where I am. 3rd day. I think the worst of the pain's over. I'm not sat here now absolutely in horrible, horrible pain like I was. There's still pain there, I've still got to be careful. The swelling's gone down a lot. And I'll be honest, I've got a lot more movement coming back, which I'm really pleased with. My fingers don't look like oversized chipolatas this morning like they did yesterday. They're a lot better. So, I'm actually going to make this the last video now, up until the 10th of April, which will be the next one, which is my next appointment in the hospital. I'll have pictures of the x-rays and the scans then. I'll get them off the hospital on the 10th. And hopefully they'll take the stitches out, take this great big heavy bulky cast off. And if everything goes to plan, it'll be a lightweight cast then, it'll be even more comfy, but let's say, majority of the pain's gone. I've just got to be careful what I do with it. Oh, another funny thing today, because I've actually got some movement left in my fingers. Don't laugh, this means a lot to me at the moment. I can tie my shoelaces again. Really means a lot. Anyhow, thanks for listening. Say 10th of April, next video. I'll keep you updated. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Well, we're 10 days into recovery now. I did promise you an update after I've been back to the hospital, which is where I've been since 10 o'clock this morning. Not long been home, and it's now 4 o'clock. First thing you probably notice is all the post-op dressings are gone now, which they took off this morning. I was quite surprised. All the stitches have dissolved in 10 days, and the wound's sort of almost healed up. It's a bit weepy, But in 10 days, I'm really, really surprised how quick the human body can heal itself, considering that hand was opened right up so they could get inside to do everything they did in there for them couple of hours in surgery. I was thinking about that the other night. I said 3 hours the other day I was in surgery for. It was longer than that. But 3 hours I remember is the countdown whilst they had the tourniquet on my arm up here. That was 3 hours they had the blood turned off to my arm to do all the work. That was where my 3 hours came from. So, but that again, that's probably something you're going to remember, Ross. You're in theatre. It's one of the figures they're counting down. Because I sat and I worked it out. I went down at 9 o'clock from the ward. Probably spent 10-15 minutes in anaesthetic. I'll call that 9:30. And they started as soon as I went into theatre, and I was in recovery at 1:45. So 9:30, 10:10, 11:11, 12:12, 1:30. That's over 4 hours in surgery. And then I was back up. I only spent 15 minutes in recovery. I was back in the ward just before 2 o'clock. Where I put on one of my photos, want a cup of tea, want something to eat. So, update today basically is I've had a new cast. It's a very, very light cast, just to protect the wound, let the bones in here carry on fusing together what's left of them, because there's a lot of bone graft went on in there, and give it a fighting chance to heal, basically. So I'm 5 weeks now before I go back and see the surgeon. So it'll be another 5 weeks before I do another update on this, unless anything changes in the meantime, but I don't think it will do. First 10 days, really, really hard. First 5 days after the op, now they were some of the most painful days I've ever had to encounter in my life. 5 days really before I stopped taking the really strong painkillers I'd been given, and went on to some that weren't quite so strong, and then sort of took myself off them altogether. But I did take 2 this morning before I went to the hospital, and I've had another 2 since, because they've been playing around with the hand, pulling, tugging, getting me to do exercises with it before they put the cast back on, so there's no support. But they do that anyhow. They just want to see what you've got, what movement you've got, and just have a good look and see where things are. So I'm pleased, surgeon's pleased. And another thing I want to say is thanks for all the comments. They're really appreciated. They mean a lot. So another update when I go back to see the surgeon in 5 weeks, which will be 17th of May now. So that's another 5 weeks off work. But I'm even more mobile now because this is so light, and obviously I can grip, I can drive. He said I can drive. So I mean, that's brilliant. I can go out now, I can get out of the house. So it means I'm mobile again. I'm not relying on lifts. I hate relying on lifts. So we're up, we're running, we're on the road to recovery. Oh, thank you everybody for your support. Thank you so much. I want to find my mouse, my cursor, whatever you want to call it, and I'll stop the video. Thank you. Boris has been sat here for over 3 weeks. This is a stone cold start. Never tried this before, never left it this long. Hey, what more can you ask? Perfect. Hiya, another little update on the progress of the wrist. I'm 7 weeks and 2 days after surgery, which was the 31st of March 2017. It's now the 21st of May 2017. Had the cast removed 17th of May. And I'm going to show you the x-rays now that they took on the Wednesday morning when I went to the hospital to see the surgeon. But before we do that, you can see the scar runs from here all the way down to here, where they opened the hand up to do the surgery. It's still very, very swollen. Oh, there's another scar there as well. So I'm actually, considering how soon it is after the surgery, I'm really pleased. I've got a grip, clamp a fist, I can touch my little finger and thumb together. I've got good grip, but the tendons are very, very tight across the top of my hand where they run across the top of the plate. That's to be expected after being in the cast for the best part of 6.5 weeks. Anyhow, here's the x-rays. As you can see in the x-rays, where the little bones are in the hand here, you can see a very faint white line in between all the bones. That's the bones beginning to fuse together in my hand, which is what we were waiting for before the cast came off. Surgeons told me now I've got to give it 4 weeks of very, very light work. I can use my hand, I'm allowed to grip, I'm allowed to pick things like my phone up, an empty cup, I can use a fork again, I can hold a pen, I can use my chopsticks. But these are all, they don't seem a lot, they don't sound a lot, but they're exercises and they're using the hand, particularly the chopsticks because of the way you hold them with your 2 fingers. Let's see if I've got any. Or something I can you sort of hold chopsticks like that, so you're moving your chopsticks all the time, but whilst you're moving them, it's pulling tight across here because you're using fingers, you're using your thumb, and it's a really good, it's a good exercise for the hand. After about 10 minutes of eating with them, there is a lot of pain. It's very, very tight, but That's to be expected this soon after surgery. As the weeks go by, things will get a lot better. I don't get to see the surgeon now for another 4 months. So between now and seeing him in 4 months, I'll know even more about how the recovery's going on. But he did say it could take anything up to 12 months for the bones to properly knit together and properly fuse. So for the next 12 months, I have to be very, very careful. But particularly the next 4 months, until I get to see him again and we get to get some more x-rays and see where everything's going. So he's happy, I'm happy, cast's gone, really good. So all in all, I think everything's gone really, really well. There's been no infections in the wound. The wound's healed up really, really nice. When we took the cast off on Wednesday, some of the wound was still open because it had been in dressings and it was still weeping, but I've been nailing the hand with lots and lots of aloe vera, and it makes the arm look very shiny, but it keeps the moisture in the skin. It's really, really good, and it's really, really helped with the recovery of the wounds, both of them actually. They've both healed up since Wednesday, really nice. So I'm happy with that. No infection. I'm at my cast. I've got finger movement. I've got my thumb movement. I can touch my little finger. Say, it's slowly now. We're on the road on recovery. I'm really, really pleased. I can't really say much more than that tonight. Next update, obviously, is going to be in 4 months' time when I get to see him again. So, once again, thanks for all the messages. Thanks for all the support. And anybody who's doubtful whether wrist fusion is the way for them to go to get rid of pain in a wrist that's got arthritis, bone disease, anything. If you're offered the bone fusion, don't hesitate. Go for it. It will relieve the pain because I've got no pain actually in the joint anymore. That's all gone. Totally gone. My pain now is all tendons and ligaments because we're not using the hand and it being immobilised for 6 weeks. They're obviously, and also considering the surgery where when they open up, they've got to move everything out the way. So they disturb everything, they bruise things. You're going to have some internal scar damage in there. But as the months go by, the pain gets less and less. The wound will heal. The wound will be sore for a little bit, but it's bearable. You can cope with it. But it does get better, and it gets better day by day. That's what I've noticed. Mine's getting better day by day. It was only Saturday I could touch my little finger. But then again, we were only Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're only 4 days out the cast. But you've got to keep doing your exercises. You've got to push it. You've got to get to that point where you're pulling on your ligaments, pulling on your tendons. It's the only way you're going to get them working again properly. Cope with it for a couple of weeks. It's worth the effort. Don't hesitate. If you're offered it to get rid of your pain, go for it. Don't worry about the restriction because obviously you're not going to be able to have that. You've got rotation that way, but you haven't got any movement in the wrist joint there. You adapt. You find ways of doing things. Don't worry about it. Go for it. Thank you very much once again. All the help, all the support. Thanks to all my friends who've been there for me. They've helped me, done things for me, taken me places. It's really much appreciated. And once again, thank you very much. And good night. At this moment, I've got a really good excuse to be out in the buggy. I'm actually post-op of having a wrist fused. 9 weeks ago, I had my right wrist fused. I've got 2 plates in here now, one running up the ulnar, one running across the top of the radius and across the top of the hand through all the carpal bones. holding it all together. There's 19 screws in there. I'm only 2 weeks out of the plaster cast after the op, and I'm allowed to do light work with the hand, but I also have to use the hand because all the tendons across the top of my hand are very, very tight. Now, I consider this, because I've got no power steering on my UTV, and because I've got to use both hands to steer it, I'm gripping, I'm using tendons, I'm using ligaments that haven't been used for a good few weeks. And every time I use it, that night, yes, I do put myself into quite a bit of pain. But day by day, my movement gets better. So I'm considering this physiotherapy for my hand. I can't think of a better way of doing it. Not only having some fun, being out in the fresh air, but using my hand, working it, not overstraining it, not being silly with it, not trying to destroy it, trying to get it working. This is my form of physiotherapy. If you've been through anything like this, broken wrist, plates, anything, you've got to get it working because you need that hand for the rest of your life. Do something you enjoy with it. Do something that's not going to hurt it too badly. Push it. Use ligaments, use tendons that you've got, build your muscles back up, pay off in the long run. Use your hand. It's my excuse, I'm sticking to it. I think it's a good excuse. Whether the surgeon likes it or not, not my problem. But I'm out doing something, I'm enjoying. And most of all, I am using my hand and I'm getting out and I'm enjoying, whilst I'm off work, whilst I'm recovering, my buggy. Because normally when I'm working, we're in at 9, we finish about 11 o'clock at night. That's 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. So I only get weekends normally to go out. At the moment I've got all the time I need. So I'm enjoying it, I'm having fun, I'm getting out in her. I haven't made an update on my wrist fusion operation for a couple of weeks. I just thought I'd bring you all up to date with my recovery process. It's been 13 weeks tomorrow being the 30th of June. Operation was the 31st of March. So in the 13 weeks, we've had surgery on the 31st. 10 days after that, I had the post-op dressings removed. Then it went into a lightweight cast for 6 weeks. That's been removed. And I've had no support on the wrist ever since then. And I'd slowly been bringing the hand back into operation. First couple of weeks it was really tight, but as time's gone by and I've used it and I've started doing more and more with it, I've got more and more and better grip. I'm really happy with the way it's all going on. First couple of weeks, there was silly things I couldn't do. I couldn't move door handles with the hand. I couldn't turn the key in the ignition in my car. I was struggling to open the car door from the inside, because obviously it's something I do with my right hand. Driving's not been an issue all the way through the procedure, because I drive automatic, so that didn't worry me at all. That's something that didn't faze me. And now I'm at the point where I'm going back to work on the 3rd of July. I'm only going back to do light duties because at the end of the day, this wrist is still healing, and it'll still be healing for the next 12 months. So I'm a little bit tentative about picking things up with it, particularly anything more than about 5 kilos. Anything more than about 5 kilos, and it tends to pull on it a little bit because I'm nowhere near back up to full strength. If anybody's been following the YouTube channel, you've probably noticed there's quite a few videos come out with me out in the Polaris. To be honest, the Polaris has been a really, really good way of doing physiotherapy, because it's quite a demanding vehicle to drive, and you need both hands to drive it. When I bought it, it had power steering on it, but I found the power steering to be a little bit light, so I removed it. And I actually find it easier to drive with no power steering. The only time it can become a pain is when you're stopped and you're trying to turn the steering wheel, but I've got 2 hands, I can turn the steering wheel. So it was making me use my right hand, the one that had the surgery on. But as you can see, the scar runs there to there, and it's healed up really, really nicely. There is still quite a lot of swelling in the wrist. That's probably my fault because I'm probably using it too much. I am creating myself a little bit of pain in it, but it's not pain in the wrist and it's not pain in the bones. It's more tendon pain more than anything. The tendon that runs across the top of my hand here is still very, very tight because it runs across the top of one of the plates. So I've probably got a bit of irritation there, but it's not irritation that stops you doing things. You can still carry on working with it, you've just got to be careful. So I'm happy now that I've had the go-ahead. I had the go-ahead 2 weeks ago to say I could go back to work to do light duties. I decided to give it another 2 weeks. So that meant back on the 3rd of July, which I'm happy. I'm going back to work. I can get myself back into a routine. Because at the moment it's get home 11 o'clock at night after I've been out pottering about, doing things, been out to see friends, might have gone out for a meal or something. And I find myself sitting up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning on YouTube or editing videos that I've made during the day so I can post them onto YouTube. Waking up about 8:30 in the morning, taking one look at the weather. If it's a nice day, get up, go out, take the Polaris out. But if it's a miserable morning, I put my head back on the pillow and go back to sleep, and then I wake up whenever. Then I go out in the Polaris and go and make a video. But all in all, if anybody is thinking about this procedure to get rid of wrist pain, if it's a procedure you're offered, because I was offered 2 procedures. I was offered a wrist replacement or fuse the wrist. The wrist replacement isn't permanent. Somewhere down the line, 10-15 years, I don't know how long these wrist joints last, I would end up having the fuse anyhow, because once they've done the wrist replacement, they can't redo it. It's a one-off op. You get another 10-15 years out of the wrist, but it's never going to be as strong as it was
before the procedure. The advantage with having the wrist fusion is eventually, because all the bones fuse in your hand, it becomes stronger than the original wrist. So I think you're better off with a stronger joint, stronger wrist, because technically you're not going to have a joint once it's been fused. You won't have any movement like that. All you'll have is rotation and your grip. You won't be able to move the wrist. It's not a disadvantage. You'll think so initially when you've had it done, but you will find ways round it. I'm doing things with it now I didn't expect to do quite so soon. I'm spannering on the Polaris, I'm servicing the Polaris, I'm using my hand, I'm using tools. But the biggest one for me is, because I am a massive fan of Chinese food, I can use my chopsticks with it. I could use them before. I'm no worse off now using my chopsticks. I can still use them. I can still eat a whole meal with them. It's not causing me any grief. It's not causing me any pain to use them. Up until about 3-4 weeks ago, I was struggling to use a fork with it, because I hadn't quite figured out what angles I needed to be eating at, and I found it quite painful to use a fork. I'm using a fork again now. So as time goes by, you figure how to do things out. Writing at the moment, I am doing it, and I have been doing it all along. I was even holding a pen whilst I had the cast on, the initial cast after the op, and writing. But I couldn't write for very long, and I couldn't write an awful lot, and the writing was very untidy. But I find this myself, my writing's not the best in the world, but my writing's actually neater now, because I have to spend a lot more time thinking about what I'm doing and how I'm going to hold the pen and what I'm going to write. My writing's actually neater now. You can actually read my writing now, which if anybody saw my writing before, you'd think your GP had written it. My writing was like that. It was terrible. I was the only one in the world that could read my writing. But now anybody can read it. So I find that quite amazing. But that's only because I put the time into it now, I suppose. And I have to. Up until about 2 weeks ago, I was struggling to use a computer mouse, because I hadn't quite figured out the position of my arm to use the mouse on the desk. Now I'm using the mouse again. But that was something, again, it didn't faze me whilst I had the cast on, because I use a scroll pad. I use Apple Computer on my desktop and Apple laptop, and the scroll pads on the Apple laptops are so sensitive and they're so easy to use. I'd got used to using it, so when I bought the scroll pad for the desktop, I found it very, very easy to use with my left hand, so I could still control my mouse, I could still use my computer. I didn't have any problems with that. That was really, really easy. But now I'm back to using the mouse. The scroll pad's been put away again for now, because I know I've got one more operation to go on this wrist. And I'm going to show you the x-ray now. What I'm asking you to look at is the little finger side of my arm where the ulnar runs. And what you'll notice is there's no end, the end of the ulnar has been removed. So there's a big gap between the end of the bone and the start of the hand and the wrist joint. So eventually they've got to fasten the ulnar to the other bone. I can't remember at the moment what the name of the other bone is, but that will need fastening back on, but at the moment my surgeon said he wants the hand and the wrist to fuse, heal, so it's going to be 12 months before we even consider the other op, if I even bother with it. I might not even bother, I might just leave it as it is and just get on with life, because it's big chunks of time away from work every time I have surgery on the wrist, because this is the second surgery I've had on my wrist in the last 2 years, because my first surgery on the wrist was October 2015 when I had surgery on the ulnar, and then with March 2017 when I had the wrist fused. And each time I was off work. The first time October, so I was off for the November, the December, went back in the January. This time I've had the work done in the March, so I've had all of April, all of May, all of June. This one's been a longer recovery, it's been 3 months. A lot of you would probably say you're going back to work too soon, but the way I look at it is I need to use the hand. It needs to be used, if only lightly. It needs to be used. I've got to get the strength back into it. I've got to get the satisfaction of still having a hand that I can use. But I feel now I'm ready to go back. Like I say, I need to use the wrist, I need to get the strength back into it, I need to get the confidence back into it to be using it. I've got to get the confidence in my wrist now that I'm not going to do any damage to it. I've got to know my limits with it. I've got to use it. So, bring the video to an end. Yes, I'm very, very happy with the progress I've made with this wrist. Very happy. And if anybody wants to email me, get in contact, either send me a message via YouTube, or you can get hold of me on one of my email addresses. I'll give you the email address I use on YouTube, which is Paul's Photography North Wales @gmail.com. Paul's Photography North Wales @gmail.com. I'll put the email address in the description as well, and if anybody wants to know any more about the procedure, the operation, my recovery process, what I've been through whilst I've been recovering, what went on before the operation, or even about the operation, because I chose to have a nerve block. So if anybody wants to know about that, rather than being knocked out, and I think there's advantages to having the nerve block, feel free, message me, ask me questions. As you know, if you've been following the other blogs I've been putting on YouTube, I've been through this procedure. I've kept people up to date with the procedure, my recovery, what I was going through in the first couple of days, what happened the first couple of weeks. So I haven't made a video for a couple of weeks, but I think now is time. I'm going back. In a couple of weeks I'll make another video to let you know how I'm getting on in work, how I feel about being back in work, whether I've made the right decision to go back to work with the wrist. I might have made the wrong decision, I don't know. I might go back for a couple of weeks. I might say, look, enough's enough. I'm going to have another few weeks off. I need more time to recover. I don't know yet, but I've got to try. At some point in the recovery process, you have to go back to work. Well, I feel I do.
Productions presents Adventure for Lunch.